poggers, that's why my content lasts longer. Whole chat in this bitch.
In March of 1963, Dr. Maurice Hilleman was woken up one night by his 5-year-old daughter. She was complaining of a sore throat, so Hilleman looked her over and determined she had the mumps.
What is that?
Wow.
Unable to sleep, he was struck with an idea. He swabbed her throat for a sample, drove to the lab, and got to work. 4 years later, his mumps vaccine was approved. It was the fastest a vaccine had ever been developed. Until now.
New vaccine against coronavirus.
And it's incredible how quickly this vaccine and others have been developed.
This was done in record time.
This is extraordinary. This is the
fastest vaccine development in U.S. history.
In 2020, vaccines for COVID-19 have shattered previous records, going from development to approval in a matter of months. That speed was driven by billions of dollars and a global effort. But in some cases, it was also because of a breakthrough in vaccine technology decades in the making. Something that could shrink this timeline going forward and change how we make vaccines altogether.
Interesting. I'll watch this.
Vaccines teach your immune system how to respond to a threat, and traditionally there have been 4 ways to do this. The 2 most common types of vaccines work by exposing you to a weakened or dead version of a virus or bacteria. The weakened virus won't make you sick, but it will teach your body how to fight the real thing if you're exposed to it later on. This is how the measles and annual flu vaccines work. Another, less common type of vaccine does a similar thing, but uses an inert version of a toxin instead of a virus. The most well-known version of this is probably the tetanus shot. This 4th type of vaccine works a little differently, because it only uses a small part of the virus instead of the whole thing. Common examples of this would be the hepatitis B vaccine or the HPV vaccine. Some of the new COVID-19 vaccines also rely on these traditional methods.
What do you mean a part? You mean a part of one part or an actual small part of it? Like because don't they like spread or like multiply? A part of the cells. I was right then. It's a part of the part, not a part of the whole thing.
For example, one COVID-19 vaccine currently in trials uses this 4th method. It only uses one part of the SARS-CoV-2 virus, known as the spike protein.
Oh, okay, let's explain it.
That spike protein is what allows the coronavirus to enter your cells. When injected into your body on its own, it's harmless. But your body will still recognize it as a foreign threat and launch an immune response to fight it off, which is enough to teach your body how to fight the whole virus. But isolating and preparing that spike protein for a vaccine is a process. Researchers first had to modify it, then multiply it a lot, and then assemble the vaccine itself in a lab. In fact, one thing that all 4 of these types of vaccines have in common is that they all require growing and transporting large amounts of live pathogens in a lab. And that takes a lot of time. A vaccine goes through many steps before it can be approved, but before anything else, it has to be developed. And working with live pathogens makes that process a lot longer. On average, it takes 5 to 10 years for a vaccine to reach FDA approval in the United States.
Man, dude, I told you motherfuckers, dude. I told you guys, last time I said this, you guys said, oh, this is not true though, bro. My dad is a scientist from fucking NASA, dude. I told you, dude.
Most COVID-19 vaccines have gotten through this process a lot faster by overlapping the different phases of human trials and starting the manufacturing early. But some vaccines have also found a groundbreaking way to speed up this first section by shifting some of the work out of the lab and into your body. Nearly every function in the human body is carried out by proteins, so our cells are constantly manufacturing them. To do that, they make a single-stranded copy of DNA. That copy is called messenger RNA, or mRNA. Each strand of mRNA holds the information on how to make one type of protein.
Guys, my mom worked on fucking measles, whatever, you know, like the and the version of it when it comes to when you're older, where the immune system it goes down, whatever, and the virus comes out of its like it's like a like the hiding spot or whatever, and it comes out again. it's way stronger and it hurts the old people a lot. She worked on that as well.
The cell reads the mRNA, follows the instructions, and makes a protein. And that's where these two new types of vaccines come
Shingles.
in. They contain instructions. Researchers who developed these new types of vaccines, called mRNA vaccines, started with the genetic sequence of the virus. They also decided to focus on the spike protein we talked about earlier.
Guys,
But instead of assembling
small story. You know what she said earlier? HPV, okay? When they first developed the vaccine, okay, my mom knew about it and wanted me and my brother I said story before, but she wanted me and my brother to get it really early when it was still kind of like releasing and it was not very popular. So we went to some private clinic at night and we got the vaccine ahead of everybody because, you know, she just wanted us to have it. And, you know, we're glad to have it because it's a vaccine, whatever. And at the time, you would have a little booklet that they would write your vaccines on it. And then we went to school one day and it was vaccination day for some other things like, I think it was tetanus shot or something. So we're in line, right? To get our shot. And I finally get there at the nurse and she says, "Huh? Your vaccine for HPV? Only girls get that." This guy's a vaccine for only girls! LOL! And everybody started laughing, dude. At me and my brother. And then we got bullied for it, dude. Because at the time, people thought only girls could get HPV or whatever.
decided to focus on the spike protein we talked about earlier. But instead of assembling and purifying that protein in a lab, they identified the part of the genetic sequence that creates it. And then took a much faster route by synthesizing mRNA and using that as the vaccine, which saved months of time and money.
Interesting.
Once inside the body, the cell reads the mRNA and begins to make harmless spike proteins of its own. From there, your body's immune system recognizes the foreign threat and sounds the alarm.
Okay,
This
that's
is how the new
500.
COVID-19 vaccines from Pfizer and BioNTech and Moderna work. But the main drawback with an mRNA vaccine is that mRNA breaks down very easily. It has to be delivered inside a protective fatty barrier and kept ultra cold, which isn't super ideal for a vaccine that needs to reach all areas of the globe. Another effective new-to-consumer kind of vaccine works similarly, but uses DNA instead of mRNA, which is much more stable. The COVID-19 vaccines from AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson are this type. It doesn't require the ultra-cold conditions, but it does have its own drawbacks.
Oh no.
To get the DNA into your cells, researchers use a harmless virus as a carrier. But over time, your body will build resistance to that virus, which means future doses using this carrier will become less and less effective, and the carrier will need to be updated. But in terms of efficacy, cost, and speed, these two new types of vaccines have broken records. These new vaccines are a groundbreaking way to elicit an immune response. And while they'll have a big impact on how we fight COVID-19, their real impact is just beginning. A vaccine that delivers specific instructions to your body opens up a whole new world of vaccine technologies and disease treatments for things like cancer or HIV.
Interesting.
Finding the vaccine was a turning point for the pandemic. But the pandemic might also be a turning point for vaccines.
Guys, I don't know if you're weird, chat. I didn't want to make fun of him at the time, but sometimes we'd get vaccinated at school, and some kids would go,